So welcome to the parents that are on here. Thank you so much. We are going to be recording this so that we will be sharing it out afterwards. We found that this was helpful last year to answer a few questions, go over the Limbrick process, and an easy way to kind of get information out there to everyone in the quickest amount of time using technology to our advantage. I am Sue Muller. I'm one of the guidance counselors here. I do want to introduce the other counselors that we do have on screen. We have Lori Mitchell, who's our Director of Guidance, K through 12. We have Miss Marr, who's one of the guidance counselors as well. And then we have Miss Angelillo, again, who's also one of the guidance counselors. So you have all of us on here. We'll be able to answer some questions. It shouldn't really take that much time. We're just going to go over really the Limbrick specific piece to this application process. And then of course we'll save time for any questions that any of you may have afterwards. And obviously all the counselors that are on the screen, feel free to jump in and answer, or add to anything that I may be missing along the way as well. So the first part, so hopefully right now, everyone has a list of schools that they're going to be applying to. That's, step one of the process, just to make sure all of that's going on. But while you are finalizing that list, the things that you can be doing from this end is that you're going to start your applications, whether or not it's on the Common App, which many of the schools are, or its own college individual application. So sometimes students choose to do a college's individual application, or a system like the CUNY system has its own application, so you have no choice. But if your schools are on the Common App, for right now, these next few steps are going to be Common App specific. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to start your applications on Common App, make a logon, get a username. Hopefully all of that is done at this point. If not, no worries. It's still very early. It's, only the middle of October. So you can still go do that. But once you make that logon and you start filling out your Common App, what you're going to do, there's a few steps that you need to do, again, from the Limbrick side of things, in order for us, to be able to connect to your Common App to send all of the information to them eventually when you're ready to apply to those schools. So what you're going to do is in the Common App, you're going to fill out your FERPA section, and you can find that under the Colleges Specific tab. You'll go to Recommenders. So you have to add one of the schools that you're applying to. And again, you don't even necessarily need to apply to that school. Just one school has to come up to prompt that section. Sometimes parents will call us and ask us and say, we can't find where it says FERPA. If you don't have a school listed in there yet that you're applying to, you won't be able to find this section that I'm talking about. So it's under the My Colleges tab. Then you're going to go under where it says Recommenders, and it'll say complete the FERPA. You're going to fill all that information out. It should all look familiar to you guys because you filled it out with us last year during our individual meetings in paper form. This is now the electronic version that we were talking about. And you're going to hit submit. You have to have your school information also filled out. So I always tell people, when you first make your Common App logon, go to the Common App tab, which is the meat of the application, fill out that whole education section, then you'll be able to fill out the rest of it. If not, you'll just get an error and it'll redirect you back. So that's not a big deal if you do that out of order. So once the FERPA is signed in the Common App, then what you're going to do is you're going to go to your Limbrick Naviance account. So once you sign into your Limbrick Naviance account, then you're going to go to the Colleges tab and then click on Colleges I'm applying to. And then up at the top, you will see a red bar that says Match. You're going to match your account from the Common App to your Naviance account. Again, having the Limbrick piece connect to the Common App piece, which are, that's the external one. Once you put in your username and password, the bar at the top should turn green and it should say it's matched. Then you're good to go from that end. While you are in Naviance, you also might want to go to the Colleges tab again and go to the drop-down menu where it says Apply to College, and then go to Letters of Recommendation, add your 2 teachers in there. This way it's formally requested, it's formally online. It'll put a reminder onto the teachers on their Naviance when they sign in. It's easier for them to find you that way when it's formally requested. So since you will already be in Naviance matching your accounts, again, go through and just go to that Letters of Recommendation part and add your 2 teachers there. One last thing in Naviance that you can do, if you have not already done so, is you can fill out your parent rec and your student rec in Naviance. We did give you paper copies of that as well. We don't care if it comes back on paper or Naviance, but if you haven't done it, an easy way to do it is type it right in the computer in Naviance, hit save, and then we can see it right in your Naviance account. So that's one less step to do. So basically, those are the three things in Naviance. The FERPA that you're going to connect, you're going to match your accounts from Common App and Naviance. You're going to formally request your teacher letters recommendation in Naviance. Then you're also going to fill out those surveys, okay? So you find those parent and student rec surveys under the About Me section. Then you scroll down and it'll say surveys from school, and you click on it, and both the parent rec and the student rec are in that little box there for you to fill out. Okay. So that's all the Naviance stuff. So sometimes parents get confused with the two systems. Remember, we don't have access to your Common App. We can't log in. We can't see if you edit something or add something. So this is a way to make them, connect, that we can push your letters of recommendation, your transcripts, everything to your Naviance account. It still does not give us access to log on and see it. There's one other section that I'll talk about that but we will never be able to edit or do anything on your Common App from that. So in your Common App, there's also a part where it says on the recommenders, where you just filled out that FERPA part. If you scroll down to the bottom where it says invite an advisor, you can add your counselor's email address under that. Once you add their email address, then there's one little box right after you hit submit back on the main screen that'll say enable preview. So you have to click that as well. And what that will do is it'll allow us to see a PDF copy of your Common App. Again, we still can't get in, edit and make any changes for you. But if there's something that you typed in, you're questioning the wording, or you wanted us to preview it before you hit submit, you can definitely add us as the advisor. This way we can log on from our account. We can go in and see a PDF copy of your actual application. A lot of times, like, I'll check how the classes were entered, or sometimes if there's a lot of supplemental essays, if they're smaller ones, so you're not spending as much time doing all the edits. A lot of times students will want me to check that over before they hit submit. So that's definitely something that you can do if you want to do that last step. So that's in the Common App. So once you have filled out your entire application, you're going to hit submit. If it's on the Common App, confetti comes up on your screen, which is kind of cool. You can keep hitting celebrate and it'll put more confetti. But it's really nice. You've hit submit, your application is on its way. What you're then going to do, and hopefully this will look familiar to everyone, this purple form. Okay, we have copies of them in guidance. You can print them online. It doesn't have to be purple. We call it a color so that when we say to the kids, the processing form, they don't look at us funny. We say purple, everyone knows what we're talking about. But you can list up to 10 schools on there. So if you're applying to 6 schools, all you need is one form. If you're going to apply to some schools now and then some schools later, and you might not do the other ones, you can just list the 3 that you're going to do now and hold off on the other ones and then send down another purple form. That's totally fine. But your guidance counselor will not know that you applied to a school unless we get one of these forms. And on this form, it also will tell us which teachers you've asked for letters of recommendation. So if we're missing that, we'll be able to see who we need to reach out to. And then it'll also tell us what your due dates are. That is the most important part on this form, short of the college that we need to send stuff to. We do ask for this form 2 weeks beforehand. This way we can plan, we can make sure everything gets out. If you come in the day something is due and your guidance counselor is at a conference or out sick or not here for that day, or seeing other students and having parents, things come up that we're not necessarily able to get things out the exact day you come bring it down. Especially kids love to come Friday at 3 o'clock and hand something in as we're walking out the door the day of a deadline. So we're really trying to work with, with all of our students. So if you guys, if the parents can remind students 2 weeks before a deadline, plan accordingly. This way you can make sure everything gets out and on its way. No one has ever missed a deadline, but again, we do ask for that to plan for any sort of, emergency. Purple form to us, that's the Limerick specific piece. Now, if you're saying, there's a deadline coming up November 1st is a big deadline. So technically, last Friday, all these purple forms should have been to us because it's 2 weeks before that deadline. Not to panic if they didn't come out on Friday, we're well aware of that. But if you send us an email to, hey, I'm doing November 1st deadline, I'll bring the form in tomorrow, or that if we know that it's coming in, totally fine. You can also give us this form as long as you've done all of those steps that I talked about, just before. If you've done all of those steps, you can hand this to us today. We can send it off in cyberspace, even if you have not hit submit and seen your confetti yet. As long as you submit it by the deadline, it's already in your account. We've already pushed it to your account, then it automatically just links up. So don't necessarily hold on to the purple form until you've hit submit. even though theoretically that should be the order. But you don't have to do it that way. As long as you have matched your accounts, as long as your school is in your Common App, we're able to push transcripts and letters of recommendation and everything to your account while you're still working on it. My one piece of advice to that too is I always tell kids for the November 1st deadline, do not go trick-or-treating, come home at 11:30 at night, and then hit submit on your apps, because the Common App always gets, bogged down with people hitting submit on November 1st. Don't do it. Leave yourself some time, especially on deadline dates. I mean, the first happens to be a Tuesday this year, but if a deadline is Monday, if you're submitting on, let's say, a Sunday or a Saturday, we're also not here to help you in case you have any problems right before you hit submit. So again, going back to planning enough time, making, due dates along the way for yourself to make sure all of those applications are due, setting some time to sit down, because it is a joint effort, right? The student is filling out the majority of the information. They will need some parent information for some of those sections that they don't know. They don't know, let's say, necessarily your degree, the college you attended, if you attended one, or a year you graduated, and then of course a credit card, unless they happen to have a credit card. They'll need some information from you. So setting aside time for the family to kind of sit down and get the application out and on its way is also a good idea. Again, not the day it's due, or not necessarily the day before it's due, because in case you have any glitches, this way your counselor will be here to help you, to work out any of those kinks that we end up seeing along the way. I know I talk very fast, but I recorded it so you can go back and watch it. But now with, to open that up, that was mainly the stuff that we wanted to cover from our end. Just the very little, specific stuff, to the last little pieces, that I feel like a lot of people always have questions for. But I do want to open it up, and if any of the counselors want to add anything, or if any of the parents have any questions, what do you guys have? Ms. Mitchell, you look like you're going to speak. With your lovely trees in the background. No.
I'm out in my Zen garden.
Listen, we get to stare at it. It's nice.
Good. Ms. Muller, thank you for going through that. As you said, that is a lot of information, but I think that it outlined it well, step by step, and people do have this as a recording to be able to go back to. It is pretty intuitive once you start going through it. It's not something that is hard. And certainly if there's any questions, guidance counselors are making themselves available to students and also parents to be able to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Yes, this is Maribel. I have a few questions.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. In terms of like the different, so there's a Common App essay, and then there's a different questions that the various universities ask. How much time should the student spend and the parent, like on ensuring that, I know the essay, the Common App essay is very important on answering the questions in a detailed and efficient manner.
Well, yeah, so any part of the application, you want to make sure it's the best representation of your child. You do want to make sure that there's no, no spelling errors, no, no grammatical, errors. That's like the basic, English kind of stuff. But some of the colleges do rely on those short answer essays, even more so than the Common App one, or they wouldn't ask them. They kind of want to see, what the students is going to say. A lot of them sometimes are even just like, why do you want to go to Hofstra? And you have to answer that. And sometimes like they want to see what the student's going to say. So I would say, it shouldn't be, you're not spending the months of it, or weeks of your time that you would be on the larger essay, right? Because that just by length is longer. But don't just discount them. If that makes sense, still put effort into them and make sure it's, what you would want the college to see.
What's important to know as well is the teachers here are willing to sit with students to check their grammar on any supplemental questions that may be asked. Most of the supplemental questions are not as long as the general essay in the Common Application tab. That one's maxed at 650 words. And the highest I've ever seen in a supplemental question is 500, and that's like the larger end. Most of them are around 350 words. So it's a couple of paragraphs that a student is putting together.
Colleges are looking to just hear a student's voice and a student's perspective. And I agree with Ms. Mueller, it's important to be contextually correct, but they're looking to have your perspective. And you want to be able to spend time on it. But if you're continually going over and over and over it, at some point you just need to say, I've done the best that I can. I have the information that I need, and I need to be able to let this go and just hit submit. So, and certainly leading up to a deadline, if you're doing this and you're still thinking and revising, it is something that can add more stress than necessary. So the thing that I would say is, have I answered the question that is being asked of me? Am I sharing this in my own voice based upon my knowledge of this school and specifically what they are asking me? And if the answers are yes for that, then let it go and then hit submit. And I can assure you that once you hit submit, there is a psychological release that goes along with that. It's a lot to be able to hold in your head that I know that I have this deadline. I know that I need to hit submit. I know that I need to do this. Once that's done, you've done everything that you can do. And now it's in the hands of the admissions officer to be able to start that review process.
Thank you.
The one thing that I think that Ms. Moeller also answered is that it does take time to do some of the demographic information, filling out your name, address, phone number, and getting some of that background information before you get into the meat of the application itself. So do it in chunks and just get that out of the way. Then you can upload your essay. Then you can, do your activity sheets and the supplemental pieces that are being requested specifically from the colleges. If you were waiting to that last minute before the deadline, it's something that can be unnecessarily stressful for you. And we've seen situations because of the volume that the entire country is filling out this application in the same way, that we've seen their website crash on a October 31st ahead of a November 1st deadline. So do it in pieces, do it in parts, and if you're able to get it done prior to the actual deadline itself, hit submit. So this is something that can also not give you any unnecessary stress.
But
I have another question.
Sure.
And so basically, just to make sure I'm not missing anything, the Common App, the student fills that out, then the Naviance, the student fills out their Naviance, and then the parent has their own separate Naviance ID that they use and fill out, correct?
Yes. So students and parents, yes, both have logons. So you can both be logged on at the same time. The parent rec and the student rec, you can actually see both of those through the student account. Not to confuse you, but both are there. Under the parent account, I believe you just have access to the parent recommendation form. So yes, if you have your parent you log on, you'll see your parent survey. Your child logs on, they'll see their student one, but they also have access to the parent one. So the under the student screen, they have access to see everything. But when you fill it out on your side, your child actually can't see what you filled out if you filled it under your parent login.
And then the Common App, the parents will have their own separate ones, or should we be using our student, our son,
So
our
for the
child?
Common App, yeah, it's the student's account. So for the Common App, it's their log on because it just is to their to their application. So you could have either you use the same, log on if you both wanted to look at it and be able to edit. They could technically invite you as an advisor as well if you always wanted to just go in and see PDF copies. So you'd be like similar to what we see, just a PDF hard copy, nothing like no edits that you can make to it. There is a way to do that. Then you would have your own logon as an advisor, quote unquote. So you can do it that way. But a lot of times I think parents and students you're logging on to your child's, application and you're using, that same username and password.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Maribel, I don't know what your last name is, so I'm just going to call you Maribel.
Yes,
I think when you were talking about, I think when you were talking about the separate accounts, you may be talking about the financial aid process, where a parent is going to establish their own PIN for the financial aid, and a student is going to have their own unique PIN as well. But for the other accounts, it really is the student account for the common application, and a parent has access to the Naviance piece because you probably gave us your email somewhere along the way. So we just want to make sure that we're not confusing those processes.
Yep, yep, and a good
Thank you.
point about yes, and a good point about the FAFSA. So FSA ID is now replaced by the PIN. So FSA ID, you will need an FSA ID for a parent and a student. The account holder is always the student. So you fill it out. It's going to be your child's name, your child's logon, your child's account. When you go to sign it, that's where the parent will have that FSA ID to sign the account as well. When you log on with your parent account, you're not necessarily going to see the application for the child, but you will have your own account, which, you know, again, it's sort of silly because, you know, you're going to be putting primarily parent information in this account for a FAFSA, but because each child is the one applying for the aid. So if you have multiple children, you can use that same FSA ID to sign the FAFSA for all of your children. But each child needs their own account at the FAFSA. Yeah. So that would be somewhere where you would have two different logons, you know, for that piece. But the Common App, yeah, is just that one to get onto that application. Anybody else? Right, and I do want to just do a plug. We are for the rest of this week, and we started it last week during lunch periods. So we're rotating through the lunch periods, and actually period 4, because a lot of students happen to have off period 4 as well, even though it's not technically a lunch period. So 1 period a day, we're doing a drop-in session for students in the conference room 110. That if students need help with anything that I just talked about, linking or that, we're all splitting it up. We're all covering different days. And so, you know, if a kid needs to link their account, whether or not I'm their counselor or Miss Mara is their counselor, it does, you know, from that end, it doesn't matter. But I'm not touching that. So I don't know who is someone. Is your screen moving around? Someone's touching something. No? It's all right. I just got all confused.
I'm sorry, I think it was me. I was trying to put another one.
Oh, that's so funny, but I don't know how you were able to do that. Are you sharing a screen with us?
No, I did
I
something
didn't- I
else. I'm
should've-
sorry, I was another
I'm
minute
so
trying
sorry.
to close it.
But if everyone can still hear me, so that's okay. That's okay. So we are doing drop-in. So if they need help linking or doing any of that, any guidance counselor that's in there will help them do that. Even if they're saying, hey, I'm not sure what question this is, or what's the class size, or how am I filling out, you know, this piece. They can pop in, have them bring their laptops, come right into the conference room, pop in, pop out. We can check over whatever they want to check over, or any questions that they have. Even if they want us to, you know, to proofread a purple form, we will be there, for the whole period, so that they can pop in and just get questions answered. And again, the schedule is going out. It was emailed out. It's on our Instagram account, so everyone's following us hopefully at our new Instagram account. And it's I want to say it's at LHS. I should have had that in front of me. LHS Guidance, I believe it is. But it's on. It's being posted on there. So tell your children to come down if they have any questions. Again, for the rest of this week, and we've been making announcements as well. So hopefully, if they have any other questions, at least between now and Friday, we'll be there at least 1 period a day. Okay, anybody else? Listen, we're gonna end 5 minutes early. That's records. Yeah, I talk fast. I get you out fast. I say half hour, I can get you out in 25 minutes.
Smaller is the Instagram LHS Owls Guidance.
LHS Owls Guidance. Thank you.
Okay.
It was the new one. The
you.
other one.
Excuse me, I have an information. I have a question. The other day that we have the meeting at the high school, and you say you was recorder. What is the YouTube channel to see that meeting?
So our YouTube channel is, I wanted to say it's Guidance. LHS Guidance. Hold on 1 second. Let me do that. I will email it out. So if you got my email about this meeting, I will email out this recording as well, which will be on our YouTube, and that will take you right to it. And I believe
Ms. Muller, can you do a screen share and show them how to find it on the website?
Yes, hold on.
That will be great. Thank you.
So I'm just gonna, this is the checklist. So if you haven't had your college meeting yet, you will be getting this during your college meeting, which has a couple different links, obviously for FAFSA, for Common App. It has, good stuff. But also on this second page, I put our new Instagram on there, and then this is the link to the guidance channel. There were some rules that it wouldn't let us name it like LHS guidance yet, so that's why unfortunately it's that, like, I can't just read it to you. You'd have to like copy and paste because it's a little funny. But so then when you go to that link, so let me get back out of this, and then I will show you what it looks like. Sleepy Monday. The computer is being sleepy. So this is our YouTube channel. So it's called Lindbergh High School Guidance Department. It has a picture of an owl. I don't know if it's coming up. But then when you go to videos, it has all past videos. This is the the parent night this year, but we did leave on stuff from last year. So some of the stuff, even though like this one about essay help was during the shutdown, because we're both filming this from home, which is, I always read it back and I'm like, oh, that was when we were all stuck home. But it's really good information about essays. So any ones that are still kind of applicable for this year, I've left up on on here, so you can go back if there's anything you may have missed. You can just go back and listen to it at your leisure. Again, this recording as well, I will work on saving it and getting it up there hopefully by today as well. So you can go back and reference any of those steps that I mentioned in the beginning. But it's right under here, and then you can subscribe to it, and then this way anything that's new and gets posted, then you'll get a notification that something was posted to our account. And again, and follow Instagram, because we're going to start sharing some more stuff through there too.
You
Great,
can
thank
also
you.
access it by going to the high school, and then you go to Guidance
Oh, yes.
Center, and then one of the menus is the Guidance YouTube channel. So that would probably be a quickest way to be able to access those previously recorded videos.
Yep. And then once you subscribe, it'll just always, when you go to your YouTube, it'll just always be there. Yep. I always forget that it's on the website.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Any other questions? It is 10:30. I do want to thank you all for jumping on and spending some time with us this morning, and hopefully it was helpful. Obviously, if you have any other questions, reach out to your counselor, and then we'll make sure to answer any questions you have along the way. Okay, thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moeller.
Good day.
Thank you, Guidance
Thank you.
Department.
Thank you.